Name is Julie Ball. I know many of you. I'm the Director of Marketing and External Communications at AFS-USA. I'm happy to walk you through our 2025 Bio Writer webinar, our process for writing student bios. So thanks so much for being here. Wanted to give Amy the floor to introduce herself as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Amy Kanathan Patel. I am the Director of Hosting Operations at AFS USA, and I'll be joining Julie as well, a part of this presentation to go over the bio writer and how to write a bio for students this
Thanks,
incoming
Amy.
cycle.
Thanks. Awesome. And to start off, I just want to quickly go through the agenda. So we'll be giving a brief introduction to writing student bios. If you've written bios before, a lot of this will sound very familiar. Our process really hasn't changed from last year. So this is really serving as a refresher to those who have written bios before. Or if you've already written, or if you haven't written bios at all, this will be maybe a lot of information, but it's a step-by-step process. So you'll get very used to writing bios. After you write one or two, it'll seem like you've always known how to do it. So we'll go through, finding students that need bios written, finding student applications with which to write the bio, writing the bio, best practices, how to complete the process, where to go with questions, and some strong bio examples and information on editing bios after they're complete. So I did want to launch a quick poll. Just give me a moment to find it here. And you'll see it appear on your screen. If you can answer yes, no, or maybe I can't remember to the question, have you written student bios before? So it's a small group today, so it looks like it's a 50-50 split, which is great. I'm going to end the poll and just share the results so you can see, but we are really down the line, 50-50, which is great. Um, and if you'd like to share this recording, of course, will be shared with other volunteers so that others can sign up to write bios if they want. You're free to share the recording and information with volunteers in your team if you know of someone in your team that you think would be a very strong bio writer, would be interested in this. So, what are student bios? This is a way for teams to get to know students, but also a way for teams to introduce students to prospective host families. So these highlight the students' interests, their character. It's basically a first impression of the student that you can share with families, with other volunteers, a little bit of a get to know you. This will help families get excited about a student. For example, maybe there's a hobby that's highlighted that the family shares. It's to pique a host family's interest. So this is how a bio appears on our site on Meet the Students. Meet the Students is a tool on our hosting webpage where you can search students by like country and information about them. So like maybe gender, age, country. So this student is a boy age 17 from France. He is available for placement. The student bio section is what's right beneath that. But you'll also notice that there's some interests here. So this is a roll-up of interests that are pulled from the student's tags. So when you're writing the bio, you'll notice that you'll be able to add certain tags to the student based on like their hobbies, or things that they're interested in, or things about the student like their dietary preferences, etc. And again, this is really to capture someone's interest so that they can fill out a form and learn more. Maybe not necessarily about this specific student, but this allows us to send them students that are maybe similar to this student as well. We are the experts, so we like to say that like we'll be able to match students and families really well. And then again, this is like your first chance to make your elevator pitch. So you never get a second chance to make a good first impression. We want to put like our best foot forward when it comes to promoting these students to families. So who can write these bios? Anyone with a hosting volunteer affiliation. So you've completed the HSA training, you've completed the DOS training, and while students are nationally available, which all of them are right now, national bio writers are writing student bios. So that means If you are interested in writing student bios, or maybe you already have the affiliation to write student bios, you are writing bios for students that are going to arrive across the United States, not necessarily just for your area. Um, if you don't have this hosting volunteer affiliation, you can be assigned one. Or if after you do the trainings, and if you are a hosting volunteer, but you don't yet have that national bio writer affiliation, you can be assigned one by your regional field specialist, by your hosting coordinator in some cases, or by another volunteer coordinator. It really depends on your team, but we'll be providing contact information at the end of this webinar if you have questions of who to go to, or how to sign up. And then all bios are reviewed and approved by hosting, field staff, or marketing staff before they're made visible on our website, or in our get to know flyers, just to ensure that there's multiple eyes on them, to make sure that we're looking at grammar and all that stuff. So how students are distributed, starting back in October, students have been distributed as nationally available, again, like available for placement across the US, twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays. So again, national bio writers are currently completing bios. As we move forward in the process, as students are maybe assigned to specific regions or teams, then typically the area team, like you would take ownership over your own assigned students' bios. But at this point, and until basically students are shifted to that other kind of placement status, you can write bios for all students across the U.S. and our staff will make assignments of students. So you don't necessarily pick the students that you want to write bios for. You can share preferences, but we will be there to help you along the way. Basically, there are staff, and I see Kate's on here. I believe she's going to be involved in that process, but making assignments of students for you to write their bios. And it's best practice to complete and submit a bio within 3 days. So that gives you enough time, hopefully, to read up about the student, find their application, make some notes, write the bio, and enter the bio into Global Link. Sponsored program students are also nationally available with pre-written bios. So in some cases, you might be writing sponsored program student bios, but mostly sponsored program staff would write those bios. So finding students needing bios. So I'm going to turn it over to Amy for this section.
Yes, hello. So how do you know students need bios? As Julie mentioned, Kate is the one who manages this. We do have a national bio writing tracker, which Kate manages. She would, every time a student is released for placement, she would add all the new students into a tracker, and then from there she would assign um, the bio writer to the student that they will be reviewing and writing the bio for. She usually, I believe, sends out an email when those have been assigned to those who have assigned a student for review. And from there, you have the link to go in and click, and you have all the information of the student, the link, and everything for you to go in. So Kate is your person in case you have any questions when it comes to the tracking. Leaving right now. All right, on to the next. So, how do you find an application for for a student that you'll be reviewing? One of the things we always recommend is to be logged into either My AFS or Global Link. Through here, you just enter your username, your password, and once you do all of that, just click enter and sign in for you to sign into Global Link or your My AFS. Once you're in there in Global Link, you will look for the service case detail. As I mentioned, usually Kate already has these links inside the tracker. But once you get in, you go into the service case detail. And here on the top, you'll see you will click on the page where it says placement info, where you will go. And then here you will go into the bio sheet. This is the sheet where you will put in all the information regarding the student as you're reviewing the application. So you'll click on bio sheet here on the top, under number 7, the service case placement detail. And once you click into that, it will bring you to this page. Here is all the personal info that you will already that you'll be ready to to write in. So the top portion, which says personal info, that is already completed. The hosting operations team, they complete this when we initially review the application. That top portion should already be filled in. So the bottom portion where it says good to know is the section where you will be filling in for the bio that you'll be writing for the student. So here you enter that, sorry. And then you also add in the tags that will go along with it. Sorry. When you're reviewing. The next part is from the participant's name, how to get into their bio. Again, making sure you're logged into my AFS and Global Link. You go to the next page, Julie. And then here you'll go to the person info. It will take you here. Then you'll click on service case. And then next, it will take you to their service reference number. So you'll click on that. And then it will take you again to the same screen that you saw earlier where it says the service case detail. Click on placement info. And then back into this screen, and you'll click on bio sheet. So there's another way to get back to the same page. There's two different ways to get there. Now, if you start in Global Link, this is how you'll get to the student application. So you click on Global Link in the blue button as a share there after you've done already the logins and everything. You'll click on hosted participant here on the side on the purple toggle here you see, and then you would write in the name of the student if you already have the name of the student in. And then once that, you'll click into add filter and select bio status is blank. But usually, again, this would not be the case since you already have a student assigned to you. So you should already have those names and the link, but in the case that you do lose it, you just have to put in their names here. Once that happens, you click search, and then the student will pop up. And then you'll click on placement here where it says number 11. You will click on that blue line there that will enter you into, again, the bio section. It will take you into the service case. Again, you click on bio, and it will take you to this page. So there's many ways, as you can see, to enter and get to that screen. So the next thing we'll be talking about is finding how to find and read a student applications, review and adding tags, and then finally writing the bio, which is what we're all here for, right? So how to find a student application. If you're already in the bio section here, you're mostly in this page. What you'll do is that you'll click back to placement info here on the top, as you can see. And then you'll go to PACS info once you get to the service case. And once you click on that, it'll take you to the next page, which is the service case detail. Once you're in the service case detail there in the bottom, towards the bottom, you'll see view application. You will click on view application, which would open on a separate window. And here you will go on printable version. You want the whole application. You don't want pieces of the applications. You want the entire one. So here you will click on printable version, which will take you to the other page. Will take you to the PDF icons here. As you can see, you'll click on print all forms. It will not print it. It will just open as a PDF. So you will not be printing anything here. So it will just download into your computer. Once it's downloaded, you're able to click it open. If you want to save a copy, go for it. But it should save under your downloads file folder on your computer. I did want to share that there's two versions of the application. We have the application that I just showed you just right now, and then we have another version, which is the Palm applications. These are recently new. I want to say in the last 4 to 5 years, this application was created. So for this one, it's a little different on how to find the student application. Here, when you click on view application, as in the other one, it will pop up a little different, the application. Here on the top, as you can see, you will click on print instead of going to printable version. And then under number 9, you'll see that says print all forms, and you will download it through there. And it will do the same thing. It will download onto your computer. most likely in your downloads folder, and from there you could open it. It usually opens automatically once it's downloaded. Sorry, just to add, if you go back, if you do it in the way as the one that I showed prior, you will not get all the forms that is needed for those Palm applications. So it's very important that when you're reviewing a Palm application, which is the version that you see right now on your screen, that you do it through the print page and then the download section instead of the ones that had the PDF icons. It's very important because for these, there are different forms. And if you do it the other version, you will not get all the forms for these. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that. And then so when you have downloaded, you have your application, you have the bio sheet opened, and now it's ready to review the application and start finding the information that you need to write the application. So as you're reviewing the student application, you want to look for these sections in particular. There is the student statement, which is either the letter to the host family or a series of questions answered, which is in the Palm application. They answer a series of questions. And there you could get to know the student more. You could capture what are their, what do they like? Sometimes they put what they dislike, what they're hoping to get out of the program, the experience, just know about more regarding their schooling, how they are as a student, as a person, their activities, interests, all of that you can mostly get either in the letter to the host family or in the series of questions that they have. The next thing is the academic record, especially the section where the teacher will have the letter of recommendation. On the academic form, there's a section on the last page where the teacher will write a little bit about the student, but we also have some teachers that write a formal letter regarding the student. So those are one of the key places to look when it comes to getting what you need to write the bio. The next is the parent statement. Now with the parent statement, this is a optional form. It's not a required form. So some applications may have the parent statement, but some of them may not have the parent statement, which is fine. It's always great if they could add it, but because it's optional, not all applications will have the parent statement. But it is a good letter to read, just so you can see how on the parents' perspective of their child is when writing the bio. The next is photos. Students have an array of different photos on their applications, and usually on the captions, they kind of write what they're doing and what they enjoy doing. So definitely here is a great way to also see visually some of the things that the students like to do. The next is the ELRF, which is the English language recommendation form, which includes a handwritten letter by the student. It's more of a questions that they ask for them to write on. They have to choose one of the questions and they have to handwrite it. So here's another way of getting the information. Usually the questions range from what do you like to do in the future to what is your favorite subject and so on and so forth. So there is another way to get some information about the student. As I mentioned, the letter of recommendation is a great way if it's provided. And last but not least, the confidential placement summary, which this is completed by a local volunteer in the partner country. And here they also may offer insights about the student. And it's a great way to get more information regarding the student and writing this bio. And of course, if you see something, say something, there is times where you may catch something that we may have missed, or there's something missing apart from the parent statement. As I said, that is optional. Always let us know. Kate has been great to kind of let me know if a volunteer has noted something down that they feel should have a second eye on. And she lets me know and I follow up with the partner on. So if you see something or you see there's information that kind of are against each other, doesn't make sense, just feel free to share that to Kate and Kate will share that to me. And then I'll pass it
Awesome.
over to Julie. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Amy. That was really helpful. And I know it seemed, for those that have never written a bio, it might seem like a long process, but once you do it a couple times, like I said, it's very straightforward. You'll be able to go right to it and you'll have like a favorite way to navigate there and it will seem a lot easier. And you'll kind of get your rhythm. So that being said, going into best practices of bio writing. So familiarize yourself with tags. I know we mentioned this, but again, tags are what you see when you navigate to that page where you're going to actually write the bio. It's under this like good to know section, this about student section. And it could be, anything from the student is in band to the student has an interest in sports and swimming potentially. And these are important because they will help other volunteers search for these students. So if they have a host family that is really interested in swimming, they can find a student easily that also matches, that interest. So familiarize yourself with the options in each of these tag categories because it will then be easier for you as you go through the application to note down things that you could tag. So where to start when writing bios? So I already mentioned like looking for like potentially things you can tag. But you also want to mention these in the bio itself. So make sure as you're reviewing the application, as you're reviewing the parts that Amy has just gone through, that you're looking for interest. So that could be after school clubs, also attending religious services, being in the church youth group, computer, cooking, crafts, anything that might really speak to the students' extracurricular activities. But also, you can know any traits or characteristics. Maybe they are extremely academic or school oriented. Maybe they're an animal lover, artistic, they're cheerful, family oriented is a great one. If they are religious, if that's a big part of their life, definitely note that, but also maybe know if they're open to, very open minded. Like that's a great trait to highlight. Musical abilities, sports, maybe like they're on the baseball team, maybe they like bicycling. I would hesitate to say, they're if in their application they say I like to dance from time to time, maybe don't say they're on the dance team. Just be honest, be true to the student. And then pronouns, make sure you know how the student identifies as you're writing the bio. So select and save the tag. So after reading the application, you'll click on the tag header as I mentioned. You'll select all the appropriate tags that apply to the student and aim to find at least 7. So 7's kind of that magical number. It's not too many as to be overwhelming, but it's not too few where people never find the student because there's not enough tags. So kind of try to stick to that number. If it's a couple less, couple more, that's okay. And then click save, good to know. And that will make sure that the tags are saved. Again, the tags matter. The tags you choose can help your fellow volunteers identify particular students using this filter on My AFS, and this is what it looks like. You've all probably seen this on My AFS. So writing the actual bio, so beyond tags. Tags can offer that basic outline as you're writing the bio. So as you're reviewing the application, I typically will have like a Word document or I'll be taking notes as I review the application so I can note, the things that might be tags, but also the things that I won't want to include in my description. So be as specific as possible in your notes so that when you go to write the bio, it's really easy. Highlight unique interests. You'll find that sometimes it's a struggle to find what makes the student unique, different from the other students, like whether it's an interesting sport or whether it's, certain traits that set them apart. Um, that is one of the most important things I would say, and one of the hardest things to make each bio extremely, unique and different from each other. And that will help you write them as well because it makes it more interesting. And be positive. Again, these are like first impressions. You do want to be honest, but avoid oversharing because the family, the volunteer will be able to see all that you are seeing eventually about the student. This is really to, pique their interest and be that first kind of touch point with the family to gauge their interest. So make sure to keep under a certain number of characters. 600 is the character count. You'll know when you're getting close because you won't be able to enter anymore. But if you're doing it in like a Word doc, note that that's kind of the magic number. Make sure that the bio is long enough. I would say leave no more than 11 characters um, left at the end. So you want to get right up to that like 600 character amount because we want the bios to be consistent in length. Um, we also want enough material for people to make their pitch. Make the first two sentences count. So the first two sentences are, on our website, wherever these are being shared. Those first two sentences are what people are really going to read and will read on if they're interesting enough. So make sure that those are compelling. Avoid identifying information. This is a big one. It's big and red in this gear, like cogs in the system, because we definitely want to avoid sharing the student's last name, where exactly they're located. Age is okay. Make sure to include like age on arrival if you're including age, but no town or city name, nothing that could be used to find the student online, no last name. And this is for the safety of the student and everyone involved. Um, and make sure that there's one space between sentences. If you are writing in Word, copying and pasting from Word sometimes doubles up the spacing. And then we have to go through when we're reviewing and delete that extra space. So make sure if you're copying and pasting from Word, you copy it or you paste as plain text and just make sure that that extra coding that's, always in Word documents is not carried over. That's just kind of a technical thing that saves a lot of time in the long run. So overall feel of the bio. As I mentioned, include facts related to the student's personality, interests, hobbies, maybe their language ability, future aspirations. I love reading when students like want to be an astronaut or want to be like a biomedical engineer, or it's really crazy. It's really inspiring what these students um, aspire to be, and I think it's a great kind of hook for people. Again, we're not trying to get kids into college, but we do want to be very positive. So keep that positive spin. Host families want to know everyday relatable things. So things that would make them see that student with their family. He loves animals of all kinds over maybe he's traveled to 18 different countries. That's really cool, but the family might be like, well, we haven't traveled that much. Would they fit in? Like, we want to make sure that the student is relatable. Focus on strengths, personality, what makes them unique. Again, words written by the teacher or the parent, if there is that parent letter, sometimes strike a good chord. And if you have that, use it because not that's might not be the case for every student. So that's your unique thing that you can include. And if the application includes few interests, include what the student hopes to learn or do in the US, and maybe what the student or what the teacher says about the student's personality. That's always a good option. Um, Limit how much you list what they prefer in a host family. So we aren't necessarily turning away families who don't fit the exact description. As all of you know, sometimes, it's not necessarily, the commonalities that always bring families together. Sometimes it's like the sharing of differences. And then for overall structure, make sure that you're beginning the bio with either an interesting fact, use the student's name more than once. So it's good to use the student's name more than once because it varies like the sentence structure. And it's not just like, she likes to ride horses. She enjoys playing soccer. That gets kind of boring to read. So you want to vary the sentence structure with some long and short sentences, and then also use the student's name instead of just pronouns, or start, your sentence in some other way. Avoid writing too many facts in one sentence. That can be overwhelming. And also try not to use the and symbol because it might not go over to our website accurately. So we always have to, it does save space not to use the word and I know a lot of writers will use that because they're reaching their character limit, but really try to spell out the word and. And then convert British English terms to US English. And, these have been our examples for a while, and I think it really just depends on who's reading it as well. Some people might understand that, when we say football, we mean soccer, but others might not. It really depends on the part of the country you're in as well. So try to convert those kind of terms that might mean something else to a US audience. And make sure to use age upon arrival. I think I already mentioned that. Later on in the cycle, when students aren't necessarily nationally available, if they're assigned to a region, then you could get even regionally or community specific. So, like, she'd love our hiking trails here in Wisconsin. But again, we don't want to do that yet because students could be really placed anywhere at this point. So bio parallel sentence structure. All parts of a sentence should agree with each other. So verbs should be in the same tense. That's, seems straightforward, but what I always do is when I'm writing, I read it back to myself because you'd be surprised, like as you're writing, as you're jotting things down, you might just kind of forget, like as you're writing. So always read the bio back to yourself and see if it makes sense. So for example one, he likes going skiing, books, and to horseback ride. Reading back, that doesn't sound right, right? He likes skiing, reading, and horseback riding. She enjoys spending time outdoors and animals. Instead, that should be she loves animals and enjoys spending time outdoors. Megan likes spending time outside in summer, winter, and during the fall. Instead, that should be Megan likes spending time outside in the summer, winter, and fall. So just as you read it back, think, how someone first approaching this bio, first approaching this student would read it. Avoid things like phrases like is known or is said to be friendly. Instead, you could say Joseph is friendly, or friends and family describe Joseph as friendly. You can avoid quiet or shy if that is a trait of the student. Just use your best judgment. We want to again put the student's best foot forward. Sometimes being quiet or shy is seen as, an undesirable trait for host families that want to welcome them. But if it's paired with like student is shy at first, but opens up and has a very close knit like friend group or something like that, there are some adjectives to definitely embrace. So energetic, outgoing, friendly, flexible, caring, generous, helpful, extroverted. Those are some great adjectives you can use. Try not to overuse words like very or really, because again, as you're reading it back to yourself, it doesn't sound great. Don't write, again, identifying information. The student's favorite activity is shopping. I think that turns off a lot of people because they're like, oh, they're coming here to shop. But if the student likes fashion or like some other shopping related activity, definitely highlight that. The student loves video games. Again, this is sometimes seen as a non-desirable trait, but there's a way to write it where it could be seen as a hobby. It's a very valid hobby that some kids have. Just make sure to balance it out with other activities so the host family doesn't get this vision of the student just being in their room and playing video games all day. And again, details that would be a turn off in a specific area, not necessarily your own area, but she loves big cities. That's fine. I think that's fine to say as long as you're like, but is open to, experiencing the country or something like that. Again, like just use your best judgment. I think there's many very experienced volunteers here that know, what a potential host family is looking for. So here are some sample bio leads. So like initial sentences and bio endings. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but for example, you don't necessarily have to start off with the student's name or, you could say like meet Teresa, an outgoing and highly motivated student from Austria. You could also start off with like an interest. So as both a boxer and a member of the school orchestra, Henry is a curious young man who enjoys trying new things. And for endings, it's easy to fall into the trap of just using the same ending over and over, but that does look off, like when it's paired with all the other bios on a website or a host family has, 3 bios that they're looking at and they see the same ending for each one. So try to vary it, even if it's just like she's eager to arrive in the US and begin her exchange year. Or Alessandro looks forward to experiencing a new culture and new traditions. Like you could mix and match things. But I always like ending the student bio with the student's aspirations for the future or what they're looking forward to maybe in the US. I think that's always kind of a safe bet. So let's review a student bio, like in summary. So you'd find their application in Global Link. You'd read their application, especially the student letter or student statement, the parent statement if available, the writing sample, notes from the student's teacher, and the confidential placement summary or the student interview. Then you'd add the bio tags, you'd write the bio summary, and then you'd save. And your name will be recorded so we could follow up, if we have questions or, if we need to know like who wrote the bio, make sure that it was you that completed it, as will the approver's name. So when someone goes and approves, their name will also be stamped on there. It helps with tracking. Here's a real example of a student bio. So this is Emmanuel. He's athletic and friendly. So again, we've kind of bolded the key points. Emmanuel's all-time favorite sport is basketball. In his free time, he enjoys solving various types of puzzles, listening to music, playing the piano. We list his favorite classes here. His teachers say he's attentive and responsible. And if this student was placed, in New York or like had that very specific region identified as where he was going, we could add something like he would be a great fit for one of upstate New York's basketball-oriented host families. But as students are nationally available, we probably replace that with maybe what Emmanuel would like to do in his future or something like that. So make sure to complete the entry and click save. So when you're writing the bio, if you're like copying and pasting from another document or you're writing right in this biographical summary, you'll start after where it says like, it'll say like percent empty, percent. That's just an empty, that's just like code for we don't have a bio yet. So you'll add to that biographical summary box and then you'll review and edit the tags. Definitely don't forget the tagging. So that's these purple ones here. And then you'll click Save Good to Know. AFS staff will then go in and click Approve. And then if we want to edit the bio later on, we would just go in and you would need edit access. So you might not have edit access right away, but you could contact one of us if you want to make a change. And we just go in and re-add the biographical summary and approve the new version. So there is a way to edit after you've already saved, but you might need to contact us in order to be able to do so. Again, words are powerful. So I know there's a lot of really great, talented writers on the call. I wanted to say here that if you are using like an AI tool to do so with, we trust all of you. If you are using an AI tool, definitely reread everything that it is writing for you. If you're entering prompts from the student's application, just make sure that there is no identifying information, that there is nothing that, could potentially hurt AFS if that data was received. So do it, I would say, with that in mind. And it is a time saver, but again, we've all seen the news. It's not always, I guess, it's a helpful tool to be used to help save time, but it shouldn't be like a copy and paste situation. So definitely reread if you're using that AI tool. But again, Bio 1, Matteo is an 18-year-old Italian student who is shy and studious. Despite getting good grades, he doesn't like getting up for school, and his parents say he enjoys arguing with his little sister. With his friends, Matteo enjoys playing video games and going skateboarding. He also likes skiing in the winter and wants to study engineering in college so he can make lots of money one day. Matteo has allergies and can't live with cats. So, it seems like this has somewhat of a negative connotation as you're reading through it. So there is a way to maybe mention some of these things, but in like a positive light. So Matteo is a mature student from Italy who has excellent grades. He's a typical teenager who enjoys sleeping in and spending time with his friends, playing games and hanging out. Having strong friendships is important to Mateo. At home, Mateo has a little sister, and while they have different interests, they both enjoy family ski trips in the mountains and taking their dog for a walk. In the future, Mateo hopes to become an aerospace engineer. So there is ways to write while still being honest. And again, this is like putting their best foot forward. So where to go with questions? So Amy and I, of course, are available for any questions that you might have, especially if you're new to writing bios. And if you haven't yet signed up or gotten in touch with Sarah Roberts or Kate Sullivan on this call, Sarah's email is on this slide, and we'll also send this whole presentation out with a recording so that you have everything you need to get started once you sign up. And again, you'll receive assignments and be able to then follow the steps. And if you don't have the affiliation needed to do so yet, you'll be assigned that affiliation. Um, we could not do this without you. This is a huge manual task every year to write these student bios, and we rely on volunteers, and hopefully it's an enjoyable exercise. I know it's very fun for me when I get to write bios, and I love approving them because it's really fun to see kind of the creativity everyone brings to it and kind of their own personal style. But again, if you have questions, definitely reach out. There's also an article on help and learning called Write Student Bios. It's under this place hosted student section. And we'll also send that out most likely in the MyFS News Digest. Sarah will also most likely be reaching out to everyone that registered for this call. And if you would like to share this with other volunteers in your team, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, we definitely encourage you to do so. They would need a hosting volunteer affiliation. So if they don't already, they need to take, some trainings to be able to have access. But again, like the more the merrier, right, Kate? I think that we'd love to have more people sign up.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Anything that you wanted to add, Kate or Amy? Kind of open the floor.
No, I really appreciate everybody for joining us. And then, if you do decide to become a national bio writer, I'm looking forward to working with you. It's truly one of the most important roles when it comes to promoting students. Everything that you write and share about the student, it's the first thing that a host family sees, sometimes even before a host family letter. So it's really truly a great honor to have this role, I think, and to be able to work with people who step into this position at AFS because you are creating the story. You're starting their story for the student before they even arrive. And yeah.
Well said. Yeah, exactly.
Again, thank you so much for joining us tonight and getting this training in. Thank you so much of signing up and, as Kate said, being the person who writes these files to get host families and a
Yeah.
placement for them.
Thanks, Amy. And did anyone, we have just a little bit of time. We have a few minutes. If anyone does have questions right off the bat, we'd be happy to take some questions.
I have a question. I'm Allison, first time bio, hopefully first time bio writer. Back to the one with, I think it was Mateo, who loves dogs but is allergic to cats. Where do you put the allergic to cats? In the
Right. There
bio.
is a,
So if I don't have I know it's in like later on, but if I'm excited about Mateo and I have 8 cats, how do I know in the marketing write-up that he's not the kid for me?
Yeah,
right.
so there's a section in the top of where the bios are written. Julie, if you could go back up to one of the
Oh,
slides that shows the bio, I
yep.
think 13, or right there. Here
There.
we go. So this top portion will have all of that information. So the top portion, as I mentioned, it is filled out by the hosting operations team. So the GPA quartile is all going to be filled out, their preferences, of supplemental paperwork. And here it says medical issues slash health issues that disabilities. There'll be tags here. So if a student does have allergies, a tag of allergy will be added there. There's also the pets where it says it's okay to live with cats and dogs, but there's one will say no cats due to allergies or no dogs due to allergies. It will also be listed under the pet comment and the medical and health comment if there is any allergies or pet allergies or such. All of that will be already inputted in the beginning before you write the bio in.
And then I think in order to know like volunteers, if you're saying like, oh, how do I like that will be a tag as well that volunteers can sort
Mhm.
by. So like your fellow volunteers in my AFS could sort by like, okay, they're not or sort them out basically. They're not cat friendly or they're not dog friendly. Um, how do you deal, I guess my follow-up question would be if there is a student that's not necessarily allergic to animals, but might have like could probably live with them, but maybe has an aversion to them. How is that handled, Amy? I know we've gotten that question before.
Yeah, so if it's a student that says, I can live with, I could live with a cat, but if not, it cannot be in my bedroom. There
Hmm.
is a tag specifically for that where we will put can live with cat, cannot be in the bedroom. There is a tag specifically. We have kind of taken different scenarios and created tags for that in these cases. But again, we would note it in their bio up in the top, we'll tag it as is. And again, in the pet comment, we'll write a little bit more details on it regarding, why they can't live with any type of animal, if it's any, especially cats and dogs. That's pretty much our main focus.
Does that answer your question, Allison?
Hopefully that answers,
I
yeah.
think so. I think it does. And now I realize the writing was saying, okay, so instead of saying Mateo is allergic to cats, you're saying Mateo loves hanging out with his dog, which would then,
I
Also,
think that's how
I mean,
they
it's tough.
worded it.
It's,
no,
yeah, it's hard to, allergy is different, I think, than wouldn't want the dog in their bedroom. But I'm understanding now how these are written to kind of pique your interest for, I have a dog, so if he's okay with their dog, then he'd be okay with my dog type of idea.
I think usually too, like in the past, people have not put the allergies in there
Mhm.
as like forefront unless it's food allergies. Sometimes if it's like gluten-free celiac, people have written or like they're a vegetarian. But we've done I can't share my screen because it's Julie or scaring, but when you download the get to know of a student and like that's usually what people send to like host families on there, it specifically will note like in big letters like their allergies, they that kind of stuff. So when our get to knows and letters are shared, it that stuff is definitely highlighted. So I personally wouldn't waste time on that unless it's a huge part of their life and they talk about it like for like half their host family letter.
Yeah,
Understood. Thank you.
good question.
Also, one last thing is some of these students have audio files and I highly like it's not you're not going to see it when you download the student bios, but I highly recommend just listening to them. It's so much fun to hear what kids say, and sometimes they'll also highlight stuff that they didn't put in their letter. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good plug. And we're still getting a lot of audio files and processing a bunch. So you'll see them more and more coming through. The audio file, and those are on MyFS, like they're linked through. We add them to Global Link and then they're linked through to MyFS and will appear as like a little sound icon. Any other questions? Okay. Well, again, we'll send out this recording and we're available for questions whenever, really. And I really hope that those new to bio writing this didn't scare you away or anything. And we're so happy to have you. And for those returning, thank you so much. You know how important these are. And yeah, we'll be in touch. So thanks so much, everybody. Have a really good rest of your night.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Amy.